Sure. Thank you, David, for the recording. Can we agree that perspectives and mindsets you carry with you throughout life create your reality? This opening salvo is the thinking that personal transformation coach Michele Molitor wants you to keep in mind for the next 45 minutes. As CEO of Nectar Consulting and co-author of the best-selling book, Breakthrough Healing, Michele's mission is to empower busy professionals to conquer anxiety, self-doubt, and toxic stress so as to pave the way for a fulfilling life and career. Dubbed the mind detective by her clients, Michele's innovative healing approach, rapid rewiring, fuses scientific, somatic, and energetic principles for holistic transformation. She helps her clients achieve greater confidence and self-worth so that they're able to move forward on their vision and goals. Michele is a trailblazer in personal transformation who also creates space for more of what's important: fulfilling relationships, improved well-being, professional satisfaction, and passion projects that amplify people's joy and gratitude every day. Now, will you please unmute yourself so that you can help me give a warm IMC NorCal welcome to Michele, and then afterwards, please let's mute ourselves so that Michele can have the room to herself. So, welcome, Michele.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Roberta, for the warm introduction and the invitation to be here with you all today. Let me just get all my little screens up so I can see what I need to see as we move through this. And today we are going to be talking about how to tame your imposter syndrome and what that is and what that means and how does it show up in the first place, right? And but before I do, I'm really curious. How many of you, like me, believe that life is too short to live from a place of fear? Anybody? Yeah, absolutely. And how many of you would agree that fear is a perspective? Yeah. And perhaps that fear is actually what's causing the stress. And then you could start to thinking about, well, what is that fear costing you in time and energy and peace of mind? So can we collectively agree that there are benefits to shifting your perspective to reduce your fear, your anxiety, and increase your clarity, calm, and even your confidence? Maybe even expanding your abundance and your success along the way, right? Now, before we dive in, I have a little favor. I'd like everybody to just take a deep breath in, letting it out. And with each breath in, breathe in some love, and exhale some stress. Breathe in some gratitude. Let go of fears and worries. Allowing yourself to just get present, to be here now. Let everything else fall away and allow yourself to fully be here as we move through these next 40 minutes together, right? So why did I ask you to do that? Because we're gonna have a conversation together, and I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I really want you to be reflective with yourself. Sharing is optional, right? But this is really for you to start to notice if there are any places and spaces within your heart that are maybe being held back because of that fear and anxiety that we started talking about. So go ahead and get your favorite note-taking device out and let's dive in. So what is the #1 biggest challenge in growing your business, your career? Write it down for yourself or even write it in the chat, right? And just look to see what is it that might be getting in your way, right? And imagine if perhaps, just perhaps, it might be you that's holding you back. What if it's your limiting beliefs that are getting in your way, that are creating blinders to what is actually available to you. Maybe even creating that debilitating case of imposter syndrome, that feeling like, oh, maybe I'm just a fraud. Well, you're not alone. This is very common, actually. Did you know that nearly 3 out of 5 people in the workplace suffer from imposter syndrome? And psychology today has told us that 7 out of 10 adults have experienced it at least once in their lifetime. It was a term that was coined by the psychologists Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes when they originally did some research back in 1978 around high achieving women. And they originally called it imposter phenomenon. But since then, it has morphed into imposter syndrome, and the research has shown us that both men and women suffer from it. And it's basically a fancy way of saying, I have self-doubt, right? It's a politically correct way to say, oh, I have imposter syndrome, right? But what you're really saying is, I have self-doubt. I have a deeply held belief that I'm maybe not quite good enough in some way, shape, or form. And it's a persistent and overwhelming belief that leaves you feeling like a fraud, that maybe you're not smart enough or talented as everyone else thinks you are, despite all of the accolades that you've already achieved in your career. It's also triggered by the negative impacts of toxic workplace cultures, workplace discrimination, structural racism, especially for people of color and marginalized communities. Now, did you know that some very famous people have actually suffered from imposter syndrome? Tom Hanks, Sheryl Sandberg, Lady Gaga, Howard Schultz, Serena Williams, really? Michael Phelps, even Sonia Sotomayor, the Supreme Court judge. And my favorite is Albert Einstein. He was once quoted saying, "The exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler." So you're in good company. So I want you to think about this. How is that mindset blocking your own progress? How is doubting your abilities having you hide out in the shadows, right? As that question Roberta posed to us, what's the thing that you keep putting off, right? Imposter syndrome can do that. Well, I'll get to it. I'm not quite ready yet, right? And ultimately, it can lead to burnout, overwhelm, anxiety, and so much more. Actually, in a recent poll I conducted with 250 participants, 84% of people reported they felt anxious and overwhelmed in their jobs, while 66% reported they felt scared or depressed, 71% felt depleted and had burnout, and 79% reported having feelings of imposter syndrome. Even according to the brain health report from Muse Headband Research, 44% experienced feelings of overwhelm and burnout. So let's take a quick poll, shall we? Let me get all fancy here and find my poll button. Okay, there's my poll button. I'm going to launch question number 1. So, can y'all see that? Give me a thumbs up if you can see the poll. So go ahead and select, since 2020, have you experienced any of the following? And select all that apply for you: depression, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, burnout, imposter syndrome, right? Just not from a place of judging yourself, but having some love and self-compassion, right? Just noticing for yourself. There's no make wrong here today. This is a safe place. And your answers are anonymous. So let's see. Everybody in? Anybody else gonna hop in? All right. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna share the results here. And we've got 44% who are dealing with depression, 78% with anxiety, 100% feeling overwhelmed, 44% dealing with burnout, and 56% with imposter syndrome. And this is a small group, right? Imagine what those numbers might be if we had a much, much larger group. So thank you for participating in that. So the thing to recognize is that we're all dealing with these feelings. You're not alone. And I'm really happy to see that actually that mental health is becoming a more of a mainstream conversation, right? Because it's normal to have ups and downs and highs and lows in life, right? It's just when we get stuck in those low places for too long that having an outside objective help and perspectives can be really, really empowering. I know it did for me. I mean, the pandemic was really tough. I work at home by myself, right? So my coping skill turned into burnout. So if you're ready to start understanding how you can tame your imposter syndrome to change your perspective, then just type yes in the chat for me, right? Because every time you say yes, the universe is paying attention, right? Now, my clients have dubbed me the mind detective because of my uncanny ability to get at the root cause of stress and pull out those root causes like a bad weed. So working with thousands of people worldwide around their anxiety, their imposter syndrome, I've identified the common thread that is actually underlying that imposter syndrome. And it's actually self-doubt. Imposter syndrome is that umbrella, right? Whereas the underbelly of it is causing stress, is causing anxiety, and those fear blinders. And then that self-doubt, those fears leads to miscommunication, misinterpretations, and conflict. And so through all of that research, I've identified 5 self-doubt archetypes, right, that sit at the heart of imposter syndrome. So let me just walk you through these really quickly, right? And notice, as I'm reading off these, just the gut reaction of which ones resonate most with you, right? We have our procrastinating perfectionist. These are our friends who like to overwork to achieve perfection before putting their work out there for others to judge. Oh, it's not quite done yet, right? Our shapeshifters are masterful at juggling multiple roles to please others and to feel safe, oftentimes because they've had a narcissistic caregiver. Our reluctant resistor, these are our friends who are too afraid to be seen or judged or rejected for their work. So they're reluctant to take on new challenges for fear of failure, which can also be a fear of success, right? Our anxious avoiders, these are our friends who are scared of being rejected for not having all of the answers. So they just don't ask for help. I'll just do it all by myself. This is my own personal favorite. I had that MO for a long time. And then lastly, we have the fearful followers. These are our friends who will stay in the shadows, hiding out, following other people's advice instead of trusting their own gut instincts and years of expertise. Now, you may have more than one that resonates with you, right? Yet there's typically one that is the strongest, that runs you and your behaviors more often than not. So drop the ones that seems most prevalent for you in the chat. Which one resonates most? I like to think of these as the 5 love languages of self-doubt, right? There's always more than one that drives you, but there's usually one that takes the lead, right? The procrastinating perfectionist, yep, absolutely. And then I've also discovered that these self-doubt archetypes, they then can show up in all sorts of sneaky ways in different facets of your life. These are the 6 areas I found to be most greatly impacted by self-doubt and imposter syndrome, right? Your career, your money, your relationships, how you deal with conflict, how are you stepping into your success, and how are you caring for your own well-being, right? So just pause for a moment and think about, write down for yourself, where self-doubt is infiltrating your life. Where is it negatively impacting your peace of mind, your happiness, and your success? Again, no judging, just noticing. Write it down, because awareness is the first step to creating change. So I get it. I was once plagued by severe self-doubt and imposter syndrome myself. I was actually terrified by it. So why is this topic so important to me? Why have I spent my life's work dedicated to helping others? Well, you see, I got bullied out of my high-tech career. I was a creative director in web development, and I got kicked off the dot-com bus, bullied by two guys I had hired. And it created a massive case of corporate PTSD for me. So much so that I was terrified to hand my resume to anyone. And so in the process of trying to figure out, gosh, what do I do next? I discovered coaching. And in the process of being coached, I discovered my true passion and purpose and calling. And I'll never forget it. The day I went home, the day I got laid off, and I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I lost my job today. And she's like, I'm really sorry, but our friend Al is dying. And I was like, what? And in an instant, it changed my perspective. Like, so what? I lost my job. My friend is losing his life. And 5 days later, Al died. And it was so tragic to me because he refused to take the cocktail of drugs that would have prolonged his life because he was too afraid to be who he was authentically. And so in that moment on that day, I always get choked up when I tell the story. I dedicated my work to him. I decided that I couldn't live from a place of fear. And I had to put my big girl panties on and figure out what I was going to do and get on with doing it. And so a year later, I started my own business, and I've been doing it for 22 years now. As a coach, a trainer, speaker, and author, and a hypnotherapist, helping people get at the root causes that get in your way to release those blocks at a deeper subconscious level so you can reclaim your authentic voice and live your best life without apology, right? Now, this was another catalytic moment, believe it or not. Is when I read this quote. I was at the Barnes and Noble bookstore on Shattuck Avenue in Berkeley, the back of a Wayne Dyer book. And it says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I was like, what? Really? It never occurred to me. It was like this quantum shift happened in that moment, right? And so if we think about our perspectives, they are all based on our history, our life experiences. Every time, including every time that your dignity gets violated, your inherent value and worth gets stepped on or diminished at some level when someone causes you mental, emotional, or even physical harm. And each of those violations creates a barrier to connection because your part of you wants to keep you safe, right? Thus creating your present reality and impacting your future reality. And that's the challenge when you get caught up in your history, spinning around in past fears and failures or self-doubt caused by these violations that creates the excessive stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the perfectionism, the imposter syndrome, right? So can you start to see how this is impacting your relationships, your career, your success? Yeah. So the interesting thing is it's these old fears and perspectives that are clouding your current reality, creating the blinders and the barriers to love, to joy, to clear communications with others and with yourself, right? Because you're looking through the filters of the past, those past experiences, and perhaps making incorrect assumptions about present or future situations, creating stress, worry, anxiety, and a whole host of potentially physical ailments that manifest in your body because of this stress. Is this resonating with you all? Yeah, just give me a nod or type yes in the chat, right? So imagine how things could flow more easily if fear and false assumptions were moved out of your communication equation, right? If they were eliminated from your nervous system, removed from your conscious mind, so that you felt unshakable in any situation. So, what would you say is at the root of conflict that you've experienced or witnessed with others, right? The things that are causing that self doubt, that are having this imposter syndrome creep into your subconscious mind, creating conflict around money, relationships, career, your success. Just type it in the chat for me, right? What do you think is at the root cause of conflict based on your experience? Any thoughts on that? Yeah. Feeling out of control and powerless? Absolutely, Roberta. Thank you. Yeah. Well, what I found is that when our dignity is violated, when our value and worth is diminished or destroyed, which can very easily fill us with self doubt and worry, triggering our anxiety, our imposter syndrome, and amplifying our worst fears, right? Not feeling listened to, self doubt, absolutely. So, what is dignity? Well, according to Webster's dictionary, it's to be worthy of honor and respect. Now, you see, we're all born with dignity, but we're not always respected in a way that honors our dignity. So, why is it important to know your dignity, you might ask? Well, simply put, it's the what and what motivates you, and the how you want to be treated. It's important because then your dignity can be supported and given credit for, not just for what you do as a consultant, but for who you are authentically, not who others expect you to be, right? So when you stand tall and confident knowing your dignity, you're less likely to get triggered when someone unintentionally violates your dignity moving forward. Conflict comes from ignorance and fear. So I've spent the last 2 decades helping people release that self-doubt, the blocks, the barriers to connection stuck in their subconscious mind, in their nervous system, blocks created when their dignity was violated in small, large, or even traumatic ways as a child, helping adults release their pain and suffering so they can live their best life and thrive. Now, what I found is these beliefs, these behaviors, they get stuck in your subconscious mind, which were originally intended to protect you from further dignity violations when we were little. But now they're just keeping you small and stuck, right? Creating that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, that fear, and so much more. You see, as children, our brains aren't fully formed yet, not until age 25. So we don't even have the capacity to process these violations, large and small, right? All the things that happen to us that are based on our basic psychological needs, our sense of safety, our sense of belonging and self-esteem. Each of these are fundamental needs, and they are impacted when our value and self-worth is attacked in some way as we grow up. So what do? What does our little child brain do? Well, we make things up about ourselves. We're left to figure things out with our 5-year-old brain or our 12-year-old brain. You see, when your dignity is violated, it creates the same physiological reaction as if we're being attacked. MRI scans have shown us this. It's really mind-blowing, actually. Your heart's race, your body prepares to fight, flight, or freeze, right? Just in order to keep us safe. And then our child brain makes up all sorts of reasons for the violations we've suffered from, right? The violations that have shaken us to our core, sometimes without even realizing it. Creating ideas about ourselves, beliefs forming in our subconscious mind, such as, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I have no value, I don't belong. A whole host of things. I've seen a lot, right? And from there, Our child mind then tries to figure out how we're supposed to act, to behave, to talk, to dress, to look, just in order to feel loved, to feel accepted, to have a sense of belonging, to feel safe. This is hardwired in at a young age. And then all of that we just carry with us into adulthood, neatly stored in the dark corners and closets of our minds. I like to call it the junk in your trunk, right? What is that old junk that you've been carrying around for far too long? So what might be some of the beliefs that you made up and started believing about yourself as a kid, right? Based on the big T or little t traumas that you've lived through. And how are those old beliefs limiting your current reality now, right? Creating that self-doubt, that overwhelm, that anxiety, or worse, manifesting as physical disease from that dis-ease that you've been feeling. So take a moment to just write that down for yourself. Just notice, no judging, right? Just self-love and compassion, right? And as you write that down, let me tell you about Greg. Greg came to me, a veteran in his industry, 30 years. He knows how to do his job, and yet he was waking up anxious early in the morning, losing sleep, procrastinating, spinning his wheels at work, causing his numbers and his income to drop. So he reached out to me. And even though he knew he had had a not so great childhood, he's like, I've already forgiven my mom for that. We talked it through and now she's gone and I'm good. I'm like, okay, right? But through our work together, we realized there was a deeper level of those wounds that were still there. And we released them and eliminated them, enabling him to find deeper peace of mind, to get back to playing his ukulele, to living his best life. And his business started to thrive once again. So let's take another little poll here. All right. Let's go back. I'm going to look at this one. And it's not going to let me launch this. Let's see. Can I do this? Nope. All right, that's weird. Poll ended. Stop sharing. Oh, stop sharing. Let's try this one. Okay, now I can do it. Yay. All right. So here's our second poll. What are the thoughts or beliefs that you tell yourself that cause you stress or variations thereof, right? Is it some form of overwhelm? I'm not doing enough, or maybe I'm doing too much, right? Is it business or career problems? Oh, I'm terrible at sales, or I don't like feeling salesy. Perfectionism. It's not quite done yet. I got a few more tweaks to make. Relationship challenges. This is the popular one. Well, if only they would be different in some way, shape, or form. Or even chronic health issues, right? Oh, I'm always so tired. I need to go to the gym. I need to lose this extra 10 pounds, whatever it is. Or my personal favorite, burnouts, right? I should be doing more, except your body's going, no, do less, right? So just notice which ones stand out most for you, right? Okay, I think we've got everybody in there. Anybody else? Okay. All right, so let's end that poll and we'll share the results. So looks like we've got 80% who are feeling some overwhelm, 30% who are dealing with business career challenges, 30% with perfectionism, 20% with relationship challenges, 20% with chronic health issues, and 40% with burnout. So we have overwhelm for the winner. Yes. Right? It's amazing how that shows up for us. And so you get to just notice what's coming up for you, right? Noticing how this conversation might, trigger some thoughts or some ahas right? But even imagining if you're going through any kind of major life transition, right? Whether it's a job loss or a new job or a divorce or starting a business, right? Notice how all those other fears get kicked up, right? Noticing that internal dialogue and just telling yourself, isn't that interesting? You don't have to take it as a truth, right? So imagine what's possible for you if you're able to eliminate those stressors, those fears, those limiting beliefs, those negative thought loops that are trying to convince you of something, and then learning how to release it from your system, right? Let me sit with that for just a moment. What would life look like or feel like to release some of that junk in your trunk that you no longer need to carry around? To release the pain, the trepidation, the preconceived notions about how your life, your career, your relationships are supposed to be based on a set of old, outdated decisions you made years ago. Simply by changing your perspective, removing those blinders, and allowing you to have more of what you do want versus what you don't want in life, right? As you master your mindset, right? The problem lies in the fact that many of these decision points that you made years ago were all made unconsciously, and they're buried deep within your subconscious mind, right? Out of sight, out of mind. We don't even realize these decisions are driving your bus. So, what does it mean when we get triggered? Well, it means that your negative mind, that mind chatter, is seeing that this event that's happening now looks an awful like the event that happened 30 or 40 years ago. And so that part of you that's trying to keep you safe, your amygdala is like, whoa, wait, this isn't safe. And will throw you back in an instant to that emotional state that you were feeling oh so many years ago, right? Causing your body and your mind to react as if you're right back in it, right? So this has probably happened to you. I know it's happened to me. One minute you're having a really nice conversation with someone, and the next minute, their faces change, their energies changed, and the conversation gets completely derailed, and you have no idea why. And you even have no idea how to get it back on track, right? Does this sound familiar? Yeah. Well, that's where the rapid rewiring work that I do comes in, right? Because the key is accessing those old beliefs and behaviors at a deeper subconscious level, right? So working both at a conscious level with coaching and on a subconscious level with hypnotherapy to get at those deeper held blocks and beliefs that are really just no longer serving you, right? It's just allowing you to access the wholeness of your brain, because your subconscious mind holds 90% of your brain power, right? Everything that's ever happened to you is neatly stored there. So learning how to rewire your mind, heart, and spirit with new empowering beliefs, well, that's just neuroplasticity at work, right? It creates whole brain transformation, right? So one of the tools that I love to use to help you determine what is your best self, right, is discovering your dignity traits, getting really clear on who is your unshakable, awesome self, right? To remember your dignity and understand your own core motivators and value drivers, enabling you to set clear boundaries so that conflict doesn't happen, right? So that you feel safe and calm in your nervous system. This is a Dignify snapshot, and it tells you what you love most that you can't necessarily articulate into words. It's a simple assessment that you can take, and I'm going to share that with you here in a minute. You'll be able to take it if you'd like. Not in this moment, but these are just a few comments from clients who have taken their Dignify snapshots. It's a perfect reminder of who I am at my core. And not only did it help me and improve the communications and collaboration of my entire team, So how amazing would it be to be treated with dignity every day at home and at work, right? So that those old triggers, those old buttons don't get pushed, right? This is just a simple tool that helps you create a roadmap for other people and how to speak to you, to how to treat you, so that you feel seen and heard and respected for who you are authentically, right? Based on how you move through the world naturally as yourself. It's a way of helping let go of old perspectives that are clouding your view, right? And understanding your own motivations, your own drivers to set clear boundaries around your do's and don'ts. How do you want to be treated? How don't you want to be treated? And that includes, how are you treating yourself and how are other people treating you, right? It's really more of a mindset, a philosophy for life and work more than anything, right? So there at the bottom, you'll see you can take this when you get a chance. It takes you about 10 minutes. You can go to dignify.com and use the code nectar-L917, my free gift for y'all today. And you can check it out, right? No strings. And if you want to have a conversation about it later on down the road, more than happy to do that, right? But it's just one way to start to see into yourself in a way that enables others to see into you more clearly with greater understanding, so that conflicts get dropped and collaboration goes up. It's a great tool, my consulting friends. I've been really, really loving using it. Now, perhaps you're wondering, well, how can I start to change my perspective today, right? We've talked around some of these things, right? But let's put the rubber on the road, right? So what's the first step that you can take to start taming your self-doubt, your imposter syndrome? Well, it's simple. You have to change the channel, right? Just like the radio. Your job is to win the battle over your negative mind so your authentic you can shine through more often than not. When you realize that negative thoughts are just energy, they're not hard and fast truths about yourself. So then you can step into a place of choice of what thoughts to tune into and what thoughts to tune away from. Just like the radio, right? You rolling through the radio and there's a song like, ooh, no, I don't like that. Change the channel, right? It's abrasive on your soul. Oh, change the channel, right? It's the same thing with your mind. You have to learn how to harness the power of your mind. So, who here is ready to release a pesky, negative, looping thought? Can I get a volunteer? Somebody wants to work with me just for a few minutes? Just
Onique.
unmute yourself. Onique?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. And where are you dialing in from today, Onique? I'm just curious.
New York.
Fabulous. Welcome. Welcome. So I'm just going to ask you some questions and you just tell me what comes up for you. So step one is noticing the negative thought that is running you in your mind. So what's a negative thought loop that continually runs in your mind? Like it constantly plays in your head. Can you share that with us?
Yes. It's not ready yet.
It's not ready yet. Oh, okay. I see you're procrastinating perfectionist. Yes, it's not ready yet. So when you think that thought, oh, it's not ready yet, how does that thought make you feel?
It makes me feel anxious because I have to figure out what's not ready.
Yes, something's not ready. I don't quite know what it is, but something's not ready. And then when you're feeling anxious, what behavior or action does that feeling then provoke in you?
I get a little confused. I get confused and then I want to seek out answers.
Yeah, okay. And how does it feel in your body? How does that confusion feel in your body?
I get hot. Then I think I'm having a hot flash.
Okay, got it. I know
I'm
those
at that
well,
age. Something is a
right?
flash.
We're of
Something
that
like
wise age. I understand, right? So then what feeling or belief do these actions evoke, right? You're feeling anxious, you're feeling hot. Um, what other feelings does that create for you?
Then I have the feeling that maybe this is the wrong thing. This is wrong. I'm doing the wrong thing. So maybe I should just stop and find the right thing. And then it becomes this
Yeah.
circle.
Yes. Yes. I totally get it. All right. So are you ready to change your mind?
Yes.
You ready? All right. On the edge of your seat. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now let's take that negative thought, right? It's not ready yet, and flip it to its exact positive opposite. What's the exact positive opposite of that negative thought?
It's ready to go. It's ready.
It's ready. It's ready to go, right? So how does that feel when you think that thought? It's ready to go.
I feel excited.
Yeah, look, her energy just changed. You notice we can't even see her face, and I can feel the shift in her energy. So when you're excited, what behavior or action does that feeling provoke?
I want to share it. I want to talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, absolutely. And then how does that feel, or what belief does that then create for yourself?
Confidence. I feel confident that I have something that is ready to go and I'm ready to execute. I have this confidence.
And where do you feel that confidence in your body?
I feel it in my like uh, just what do you call this? I forgot
Your
what to
solar
call it.
plexus?
Yes, right there, right there.
I knew that's what she was pointing at. I could feel it. Yeah. So I want everybody to notice how quickly Onique was able to change her mind, right? And notice, Onique, the different feeling, the negative feeling that took you down the rabbit hole and made you
Hmm.
feel really hot and anxious versus feeling excited, energized, confident, and ready to share with the world, right? So you get to choose. Do you want to go down the rabbit hole to that negative feeling in the mud? Or do you want to choose the positive feeling and the positive thought that takes you up and out and sharing your brilliance with the world? You get to choose. You're
The
always a
positive,
choice.
the positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank you.
participating. Yeah. So, can you see how quickly you can toggle? You can change your mind, right? So change the channel to one of self love, right? Because love is a powerful unifying force in the universe, right? Your authentic you, your higher self, always chooses to operate from a place of love. And so the more you practice this simple technique to change your mind, the more quickly you can get yourself out of those negative thought loops, right? And that have you feeling stuck, right? Blinding you to the truth of who you are, a talented and amazing human being with amazing, unique gifts to share, right? Your mind is a powerful place, my friends, right? Especially when you learn how to harness that power for good instead of letting the fear, the lack, the not enoughness that has been holding you back and hiding you out. It's preventing you from shining and sharing your inherent gifts and talents simply by changing your perspective. So I have a whole bunch of other tips that I'm going to share with you in my free ebook, and I'll give you the link at the end of the talk. But for now, I want you to think, by chance, if you can create that powerful positive change in your thinking for yourself, honoring your authentic self, what's possible if everyone in your world, in your relationships, on your teams, were able to see each other's authentic selves as well, to treat each other with greater dignity? What's possible when you trade conflict and miscommunication for collaboration and productivity? Quieting that imposter syndrome, that not you mind, that fear mind, quieting it down as you allow more of yourself to shine. So just close your eyes once again, take in a deep belly breath, in and out. And as you do, imagine what's possible when you're able to operate from greater peace, calm, and clarity. what's possible when your team, your colleagues, your community is able to clearly communicate with greater dignity to create psychological safety and greater well-being and engagement, right? It is possible. You too can become unshakable simply by changing the channel, by changing your perspective. It's time to leave the past in your history book. All the drama and trauma, just leave it. Put it down. You no longer need it. Discover how you can step joyfully into your future as your most authentic you yet, to unlock your full confidence and success as you become unshakable. It's been my joy to be here with you today. Let's connect and see what path of transformation might be best for you, right? When you're ready to leave the junk in your trunk in the rearview mirror, right? Leaving it all there once and for all. So thank you very much for being here with me today. As I mentioned, I have a little gift for you all. You can point your camera at the QR code to get my free ebook called What's Causing Your Imposter Syndrome? 6 Triggers Crushing Your Confidence. And there's a link to it there as well. And I'm also always happy to have a one-to-one confidential clarity call if anybody's interested in talking with me confidentially about what's going on in your life and how I might be of service. So what questions can I ask? And what questions can I answer for you? And I hope this was helpful for you today. Any questions?
Wow.
Any thoughts?
We do have some time for a couple of questions. Okay, Michele, I'll ask a quick question.
Sure.
While people are getting their thoughts together. What you've been talking about seems to relate to things that have been going on, that are really deep and embedded inside of us. What's your advice when some things come up that don't seem to be following any pattern that you recognize in the past? It's sort of a new set of emotions or a new set of reactions, and not good reactions, and you surprise yourself. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, the first step is getting curious. Like, that's an interesting reaction, right? Not labeling it, not making it bad or wrong, but just noticing it, because it's really just energy. Our emotions, our thoughts are just energy. So if you can hold it as kind of an outside observer, wow, isn't that interesting, that energy that I just felt kind of moving through my system, and holding it lightly and shining a flashlight on it, like, I wonder what that's about. And as you tune in, as you quiet yourself, as you close your eyes and breathe into those emotions, that energy, just allowing yourself to see, feel, sense, what is that all about? Because your higher self knows, right? It understands. So asking, I'm curious, what's that all about? And looking for the pointers to create greater understanding. And then, doing some of the deeper reflection and writing, maybe doing some journaling around it to see what's coming up for you. Does that help?
And it does. And if instead of being an observer, you get caught in it and get triggered,
then breathing is your friend, right? Because we all get triggered, right? The panic rolls up and your brain starts to spin. I have a sticker on my refrigerator that says breathe, right? And maybe it's just sticky notes wherever you need to put them, right? Maybe it's on your computer screen, maybe it's on your phone, but breathe, because that trigger is having your nervous system get all up in arms, right? It's creating cortisol running through, adrenaline running through. So as you breathe, you're able to calm your nervous system more. And when we do get triggered, oftentimes our amygdala, the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism in your brain, hijacks your prefrontal cortex, right? Taking it offline literally for anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes to a couple of hours. So by breathing, you're helping your brain, your logical functioning brain come back online.
To come back online. So it's sort of like being able to go through that process that you went through earlier, the steps where you're observing what's going on, and then you're able to flip the script. So can you still go through? Does that still apply? Okay,
absolutely.
Does anybody else have any questions for Michele? We could take one more question.
Yeah, Michele, question. So, you're pumped up, you're starting this new thing, you're making this step, but sometimes, there's a dip before you kind of get in the positive direction. So any suggestions on how to, keep yourself energized, focused, and not get discouraged when you're trying something new? And
yes, that's a great question, John. Thank you so much. Well, it's about remembering your why. Why are you moving in that direction? What's pulling you forward? So be sure to write down your why. The why of what's having you step into this new adventure, for the sake of what? Not for the sake of making money, because we all want to make money, right? Money is an outcome. What's the value that's pulling you forward? I want to be of service. I want to be of contribution. I want to help more people, right? That's my why. How can I be of greater service to more people worldwide? That's why I do these talks, right? And then creating, I call it your win list, right? Every time you have a little tiny win or even a really big win, write it down on your win list. So in those moments when you're feeling stuck or like, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I sure this is the right thing for me to do, right? Go back to your win list. Those testimonials that clients have given you, the praise that friends, family, colleagues have given you, cheering you on, so that you can remember that and go, oh, right, that's why I'm doing this. Okay, let's get back at it, right?
Thank you.
So I want to read a bit of the chat here. Michele, fabulous presentation. Thank you. Fabulous presentation. Just energy and love are my top takeaways. And then Trish, always with the capstone comment. By the way, Trish comes to us from Dallas, our Dallas chapter. Michele, thank you for modeling the peace, calm, and clarity you promote. So everybody, please unmute yourselves and let's just give it another round of applause. Oh my God, this was, we absorb it and take it away and think about it. Thank you so much.
My sincere pleasure. Thank you, Roberta, for having me today.
You bet. So before we leave, everyone, before you take off, before you go, does anybody have an announcement or need or a deal? Just post it in the chat. And I want to remind everyone that we have sister chapters across the country hosting lots of virtual events with great speakers. You can go to the imcusa.org to check the calendar for event times and topics. Make sure you tell them that NorCal sent you. And just as a reminder, we want to expand our community of consultants in our region here because we are the home for consultants in the Bay Area, to Central California, north to Oregon, the border, east to Reno, and even across the Pacific to Hawaii. So if you're not yet a member, we'd love to see whether IMC USA could be for you or even for a colleague who consults. Just get in touch with us afterwards. Our next meeting, Tuesday, December the 5th with Corey. And with that, I'm going to say cheerio for today. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving, have a sumptuous, wonderful holiday. And Michele, thank you so much. And we have some things in the chat here. Oh, you put, okay, support, your link. Let's just click on this. Okay.
Yep. It's just for the ladies. I have a group support program. If it's of interest, starts tomorrow. It's not too late to dive into the pool with us. So,
Michael, when did you join us?
It snuck in.
Morning, Roberto.
Good Good morning.
Roberta,
When did
excuse me.
when did you pop on?
Well, I was a bit late. I had a project earlier today, and anyway,
Well, that's okay. You can get the
I've been
recording.
here for a few minutes and have enjoyed listening to Michele. She has some great ideas. Reminds me of earlier training and the things that we need to be reminded of.
Yeah, Mike and I go back also many
Yeah.
years. I think we first met at BNI. So yes, and you're a CMC, aren't you? You're certified.
Sorry, I missed that.
You're a certified management consultant, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're a CMC. I've almost got mine. So yeah, Michele, become certified. That would really be fun. All right,
Add a
everybody.
few
I'm
more
going to shut
letters,
the.
right?
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
add a few more letters. I'm going to shut the. Or David, you're going to shut the meeting down unless there are any last thoughts or comments before we sign off.
Yes, I finally was able to drop into the chat something that could be a follow-on for today's session. It's called Coaching with Kindness. And,
Oh yes, Libby, she's fantastic.
yeah, that'll be IMC DFW on this coming Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
What time?
10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, 10 a.m. Pacific, not your time. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm putting it in your terms so that it will be useful to you.
Except I'm on the East Coast right now, so for me it's all
Cool.
the time.
That'll be
just getting mixed up.
1
Yeah.
p.m. for you if you're on the East Coast
Yes,
still.
yes. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be signing off and see you next month. And have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
North.
Thank you. Thanks again
Thank you,
so much,
Michele.
Michele.
Oh, my
This is
sincere
wonderful.
pleasure. Many blessings to y'all. Be well. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.